Welcome to this Dominion 6 tutorial series. My name is DasTactic. Hope you've been enjoying the series so far. In this episode, we're going to sort of finish off all of the work we've done so far in this series and actually choose a pretender god so we can actually get into the game. And then following this one, we're then going to be sort of doing more tutorials within the game. So we're just going to go, I'll just very quickly create sort of where we got to. I just can't stop playing these donut games. I really like them. I'll disable the east-west wraparound in this case. Enable the rivers is fine. And we'll just click on OK. Just call this one YouTube. OK. Middle Ages, because that's where we've been looking so far. Now, just to set up again, I've already gone through this, but I'm just going to choose Jotunheim. Again, it's a nice faction for a new player. Gives you a nice mix of magic as well as brute strength with the giants. Let's just go and choose land nations for all of the rest. So we'll grab these. And again, I've covered this in other episodes, so it makes it better to learn on. I'll keep it on normal AI, but again, if you're new, you may want to right click on these and bring these down to easy. It's up to you. Leave that one there, just click on OK. And we are playing as Jotunheim. Very, very quickly while we're here, we'll see a few different things. So cold race prefers cold scale of +2. That's where we're going to be starting. We also have the scale and blesses. A cold limit goes up by an extra 1, which means we can get to cold scale 3. Buildings, giant forts, and forts reduce cold scale deaths by 1 step. That's not going to affect our faction because we actually are cold resistant. But if we have other groups that we end up picking up, that will actually help them a little bit if there is a giant fort in where they actually are. Everything else is pretty cool in through there. One thing I do always like to do is have a bit of a feel as if there's what the ratio of gold to resources is. That's a 4 to 3. That one's actually the other way around. Not that we'd be getting very many of those. That one's actually a bit more gold than resources. Just getting some of the basic fighters in through here. Yeah, so it's pretty even gold and resources, to be honest, across the board. We're going to be able to make use. In fact, gold is probably a little bit more important than resources, but resources will still be important. We do actually have armor, not so much with this one here, but with everything else, it does actually use armor. The gold here is just the training sort of type aspect. This is pretty much our only real sacred unit as far as a unit. Do we want to be building many of those? Not really, because we're not going to be going with a bless strategy, which I've covered again in other episodes, so talking about the sacred blesses. And so in this instance, we're not going to worry too much about blesses. If we have the opportunity, we may grab it, but let's just see where we end up. Just click on OK. So let's talk about the actual physical forms. Now, sometimes you're going to be wanting to start with your scales and actually sort of tweak those depending on the faction. Other times you may be wanting to start exactly with the physical form, which will then sort of dictate what happens in through here. Let's just start, because this episode is about the various gods that you then have the choice from. So when you select the physical form, also by the way, if you just go Shift ? I'll show you these as we go through. You can actually load a pretender design, save a current pretender design. So once you get somewhere with it you like, save it away. And save a pretender as an AI template mod data. So I don't know what that one does. And then you've got different sorts of effects and things that you can sort of have a look at through here. Viewing the spells, viewing the magical items. These are important things which I covered in previous episodes as well. So we're going to choose the physical form. Now, if you know what you're looking for, press the tab, which will then bring up the magical paths at the top and also any other benefits or abilities that they bring in down below. So, for example, this Demolic brings in some sort of death scale. It sort of does something with the death scales. This one over through here, for example, starts off with air and water and affects the frost scale. And so these are the different sorts of gods. Now let's just do an overview as to what you're seeing on this screen. Now for Jotunheim, there's not a dramatic number of pretender gods you can choose from. Some of the factions will have heaps and heaps of them in here, and other factions will have, like this one, very, very few. It's split off into 4 different sections: Dominion 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, this is not arbitrary. What these refer to, well, first of all, I've covered the dominions and the scales in the previous episode, so I won't go through how that impacts your recruitments, etc., because I've already covered that. But what these do is you've essentially got classifications of loose classifications of the different pretender gods. The top classification under Dominion 4 tends to be your inanimate objects. These are monoliths, for example. These are statues like the idol of men, the idol of beasts, the idol of sorcery, immortal, like an ancient tree. So these are inanimates at Dominions 4. A sacred geyser in through here, and also a fountain of blood. Now you can see there the magic paths after pressing tab. Again, tab will just toggle that on or off. It does allow you to get a bit of a feel for the magic paths that you're going to be starting to be good at. Now these have got different, like typically different sorts of aspects about them. Like if I bring in, like if I hover over these, if any of these are suitable for our faction, well, it'll tell us that we've got like a benefit with it, and none of them actually are. So that's the inanimates. I'll just go through the classifications. The next faction down, Dominions 3, tends to be your titans. These are sort of like demigods in their own right. So these don't move around the map, or they don't move easily around the map. These do move around the map and are usually very, very strong. They're typically what they do. The exception being the demilich, which is just a pile of bones. But everyone else is an actual titan, like a demigod, as I said, in their own right. So these are very much like this one, the son of Nephil. I thought that one would have actually been one that we would have actually had extra points for it. Actually, I'm surprised at that. That one sort of does tend to suit who we are, but it's not saying we've got any points coming back off that one through there. So they're your titans. The next one down is your great beasts. These are your dragons, your serpents, the big the Fenrir and through here. Here we go. This one here, son of Fenrir, 160 points, reduced by 20 points for this nation. So we get a bonus for some units. I'm guessing that so the dragon here, this frost dragon, is also reduced by 20 points. But these are your great beasts. And so, these have all got a different sort of bent about them to a large degree. And I'll just go through the typical. There are exceptions. Like, so for example, we do actually have a bog mummy, which is sort of like a big undead creature. Again, reduced by 20 points for our particular nation. We do actually have a ghost king down through here as well as a master lich. Now, these are different again to this typical, and I just want to focus on the typical for now. We'll talk maybe a little bit about the exceptions in just a second, but that's the Dominion 2 aspect. The Dominion 1 aspect are your sort of enlightened humans, typically. And so these tend to be, for example, great sages and crones, master enchanters, and so on and so forth. So these tend to be quite weak with what they do, typically. Some of them will be a bit different, like the Bitch Queen, and this one here is the Scrati, which is reduced by 20 points for our nation. So this is also similar to, it would lend itself well to what we have. Let's have a look and see what the pros and cons are for each of these. Let's start at the bottom and work our way up, just so you get a bit of a feel. Now, typically, a lot of people will actually choose things like the Archmage, the Master Enchanter, someone like this, the Great Sage, where they've just got like one magical ability. But the benefit of using these, if I bring this one back in and have a bit of a look at it, you'll see it's only got the one astral and when he does come in, but a heap of design points before we get started. So 340 design points, but only starting off with one Dominion in through here. So we've got a lot we can spend in through here. Also, one of the big hallmarks of these human players, or these human demigods, is that the new paths only cost 10 points. Now, I have covered the paths in a previous episode, but this is worth knowing that typically the Dominions 1 group have got like a lot more points to spend. Plus, you can push them any which way you like. Like, so if we wanted to get into Glamour, the first one that we're going to then go, if we've got 340 points in through there, that's 330 to get to level 1. And then we're going to the typical level 2s. And so that then sort of goes up to 314. And then we can start to sort of get higher and higher. But it's fairly cheap for us to break into these paths. So the first one here is actually extremely cheap. Like, so any of these ones that we don't actually have, it's only 10 points to get into it, and then literally we're sort of just going up at the normal rate from there. So this allows us to create what's called rainbow mages, where we have lots and lots of different magical paths, or we can push really heavily into a single path. But this is typically, these tend to have like a mix of different magic paths, which Again, if you've sort of had a look at the items that you want, you think, okay, I really need I don't have any earth magic in my group, so I want to boost this one to level 4 for whatever reason. And then, you know, do whatever else I want to be doing. So you sort of think ahead a little bit with this. So that's your Dominions 1 groups. If we go back in, the Dominions 2 groups, as I say, are typically your great beasts. And so let's just go and grab, for example, the Son of Fenrir. In through here, great beasts don't learn things very well. And so they're more powerful. They actually do have like very, very high hit points, good strength, so they can do a lot of damage, typically, when they do come in. So they cost a lot because they come in as a pretty much a super combatant anyway. So they're designed, you have a lot less points to start with. You do have 2 Dominion though at the start down through here. But to break into other paths is extremely expensive. So 80 points just for the first one. So again, if we were going to break into Earth magic, we've got 290. That's going to be 210 just to break into Earth. And then we go up into level 2. So the next one will then sort of be 16 points at that point. So typically it goes 8, 16, 24, and so on and so forth. So the first step in though is 80 points, whereas for a human, like for one of those Dominions 1 players down through this other side, any of these is only 10. Instead of being 8, it's 10. So it makes it simple. Like it's hardly any cost at all to break in with those Dominion 1s. But again, you start off with Dominion 1. So to get to that to Dominion 2, we're still miles ahead of where we were with the actual design points that we actually had. So anyway, that's the Dominions 1. So typically, these will not have they're dumb animals, but they're very, very powerful animals. And these are fun if you're wanting to get out and sort of dominate as much as you possibly can. Now, are these good for learning? Yes, they are. They're good for learning because they'll teach you 2 things. One, they'll teach you what it's like to have a really, really powerful unit at the start of the game where you can do anything you like. And the second thing they'll teach you is that really, really powerful units at the start of the game don't last very long. But they are fun to play with. And so typically, like for example, a Frost Dragon in through here, going to be extremely powerful, like with the hit points and all the strength and the different bites, claws, tail sweeps, Dragon Frost, all these different abilities that it has. It does, of course, come in with its own sort of Water Mage level 2 in through this other side as well. So it's got its own abilities, but you can deck these things out very, very quickly and have fun for a portion of the game. But there will come like pretty early on, you'll find that you'll just happen to choose the wrong province where this thing won't survive. And then all of a sudden, you're really struggling. So these are fun, but dangerous to play with. So just be aware of that. Obviously, I'm going to cancel that one. So that's the tier 1s, tier 2s. The tier 3s are Titans. These are ancient beings. So if we go and grab the Son of Nephil, for example, and have a look what he does. So these are set in their ways. Typically, they're set in their ways. New paths typically cost around 40 to 60 points. Actually, usually 60 points. So it's not as bad as a beast, but it's still bad. So again, to break into Earth Magic, you can see that we don't have very many design points. We do have 3 Dominion, but we don't have very many design points left over in comparison. And then to break into there's another 60. And then then after we've broken in, it then goes up in 16, 24, 32, etc. So that's the progression through that side. So once you actually get into these expensive ones with the beasts and the Titans, you don't really want to be going outside of what they already have. Like for example, we've got 200 points there. This is a nice one because we can see the cost. At Death Magic level 1, we've already got that one. If I go and click on that one again, it's only 8 points to extend that one more point. And then it's 16 to go to the next one. So it's easy for me to boost this one and still keep a lot of points. Water, again, I'm already at Water 2. Click it again. It's the first level I go up is only 8 points, and then the next one is 16. And so it's very easy, as long as I start off with these Titans, with the magic paths that we want, I can then extend it without it really costing me a hell of a lot of design points. So these are great. These are also awesome because these also have, they're going to be very, very strong. They can also dominate the map in the early part of the game. They can basically sort of do that on their own if you like. They can be decked out with all sorts of different equipment. So these usually don't have very many limits on what they can do. Again, there are exceptions. If we go back, for example, and have a look at the dragon, and have a look at what the dragon can do, the dragon can only wear a crown. So crowns and laurels is all it can actually wear. So it can't deck out in any sort of armor or anything like that. It is what it is. Whereas these guys can actually then go and put on all of the different armor, all of the different things that a standard unit can end up doing. So these can be boosted really quite well in the mid-game as long as you can keep them alive that long, because you do sort of end up using these a little bit for fighting, which, as I say before, is quite dangerous to do that when you're learning the game. So these are fun but tricky again, so you've got a different sort of aspect to them. Now, the final one is your inanimates. These don't move around. So if I go and have a look at Immensolf in here, for example, and go and click on this one through here, you can see again, new path points cost 60 points. Now, some of these will be cheaper. Hang on, I'll just cancel that one again. Is that one? That's 40, for example. So these are typically around 40 to 60. All of these, yeah, it's all 60 points back and through there. That's another 40 points. So these typically are about 40, but in this case we actually have an ancient tree, which is 60 points. And this one only has nature magic at this point in time. And so that's all we sort of start off with Immensol, the actual, essentially like an old ancient tree, is the actual inanimate. Now, so these can technically move later on in the game, but not at the start. These stay inside your capital. I would strongly recommend that you choose one of the inanimates for your first few games. And even though the others are fun to play, by all means play with them and see what they're like, but just expect that you are going to die pretty damn fast. Again, these can only hang miscellaneous items on them, so you can't really deck these out, typically. If you just go back in and have another look. So all of these are going to be essentially just a physical form. This one does have 3 slots for miscellaneous magic items. But these are inanimate objects. I don't know if it'll tell us that this one can't be teleported. That's the way you can move these around, is by teleporting. This one can't be teleported. So you can eventually get a teleport spell which allows these things to then move around as powerful, because they've typically got very, very strong hit points. The Dominions 4 as well, it means that they do actually come through and boost their own Dominion very, very effectively. So these are really, really good starts for a new player, because you don't rely on them for battles. You do rely on them for magic, and which is sort of what they should be used for. And so you don't get into the bad habits of overcommitting the beasts or the titans until you're ready. So quite often what you'll find is that if I just get back out again, if you are choosing these in the Dominions 3 range, or these in the Dominions 2 range, the beasts or the titans, you are typically going to be fighting with them early on. And this is something that I think mid-level to advanced players will sort of know what to do with these and be able to reasonably effectively protect them. It does give you a lot of options, because you can certainly sort of buff different attacks that go in with these different units, and they are fun to learn with. But typically, you're going to lose them early, and that will sort of be frustrating for you. So my strong recommendation is to go with the top here, the inanimates, just so you're not tempted to move them around, and then just deck everything else out. So all you're doing is building up your basic units, and playing as the giants, you are going to have strong units anyway. So there we are. I guess that gives a bit of a summary as to what each line in here actually is. Now, I did mention there were exceptions. Pretty much in this case, there's no exceptions up through here in the Dominions 4. They're all inanimate objects. Down through here in the Titans, we did actually talk about the Demi-Licks. If I just go and click on that one through there, you can see that the new path points only cost 20 points. This is actually not too bad. If we have a quick look at at this one and right click on it, this one I think is inanimate as well. I think, yeah, it does actually have a helmet, so you can put a helmet on the skull, but it doesn't actually move around. Actually, where is it? Map movement is 0. There we go. So it doesn't actually move. It's inanimate. So inanimate beings are dead things animated by strong magics. They lack life force here, blah, blah, blah. So this is just a pile of bones. So this is a bit different to the other ones. It does come in death scale limit of +1, so it pushes the death scale up. So it's a powerful pile of bones. Now, this is typically in most kits, like you'll often find this one. You will then find other things, for example, like the bog mummy. Actually, just tab. No, tab just does that. That's okay. This one here, again, 40 points in through this other side. This one's it's got a bit more learning than most of the other animals, which are usually typically 80. In this case, we've got a blood and death sort of ability back and through here. This guy is relatively strong, but really we're giants anyway, so it doesn't matter that much. This one, sorry, it's inanimate, like this one still can map move, so this can move around on the map, but it's basically a dead mummy, so come back to life. The other exceptions, we do actually have things, for example, like the Master Lick, who is going to only have a smallish number of hit points, and 40 points to get to the new point in through here instead of the typical 80. So again, fairly strong in terms of compared to the humans, but still not super strong compared to everything else around it. Let's have a look at these. The Ghost King. So this one here, good hit points again. A little bit of death magic in this other side. This one's ethereal, which means that ethereal units are very hard to hit with non-magical weapons. Attacks from non-magical weapons have a 75% chance of being ineffective. I did talk about this in the weapons, armor, and magic items episode, where I showed you magic on equipment. This is where the magic items, the magic weapons are very, very effective, because even though they don't do any extra damage, they do overcome things like ethereal units. And so if you are going up against a lot of undead and ghosts, you are going to be coming up against a lot of ethereals. And so having magical attacks is very, very helpful. In this case, though, not super strong, but does actually have, again, just the cheap entry into different other areas, so you can sort of get like a relatively strong unit that can do a lot of different sorts of things. Fairly powerful in the early part of the game, but it's a bit of a hybrid of all sorts of different things in through there. So, and again, a lot of players, as they get used to the game, will actually then go and choose one of these at the bottom here and just to really, really boost their magic paths. So if you do that one, you don't want to be really wandering around too much with these, because they are extremely weak. So these are just basic humans, but they have the ability to become super powerful through their magic. So these are, again, creatures that need to be protected, but they do give you a lot of freedom. So they're all the different options that you actually have when you do choose your actual gods. As I said, the one I would strongly suggest that you choose is to choose just to limit your choice initially to the top line, to the Dominions 4 line. It may end up being 2 lines, but whatever you've got there, just sort of select that one and try to pick what you want. Now, I've already gone through in other episodes as to what to look for in terms of how you might want to buff a unit up or something like this. One of the good things about doing this with a faction like Jotunheim, we're not really reliant on blessed strategy, so magic doesn't really matter that much. Getting the items doesn't really matter that much, but it still could be useful. We could use one of these to sort of start to bolster areas that we're not very strong at. So, for example, nature could be very, very useful. I might even show you a few of these little things now that we're looking at Jotunheim. That sort of presents the selection of what we're doing. Now we're going to go through and actually make the choice. So this next part of it, you can probably stop watching if you're really just wanting to get an overview of what the different gods actually are. But in this case, we should now sort of pick and choose and think, okay, well, how do we want things to sort of then go and work with these gods? If we choose Irminsul in through this other side, we can see that we can bolster nature magic quite a bit if we wanted to. Now, there'll be different bless strategies, and for here, again, if I just press the question marks, we'll have a quick look at this stuff. So, view the possible bless effects. If we press B, and then if we just have a look at nature as an example. So, resilient, low light, poison resistance, forest survival, unaging, don't really need that one. Poison weapons, we don't really need. Recuperation. Now, when it says incarnate only, your pretender god has to be on the map. So it can't be, actually one thing I should just show, you can have them starting off awake with that sort of points, dormant, which means that they're going to be basically asleep for 12 months of the game, so 12 turns of the game, and at that point they'll then become awake. While they're dormant, you don't get those other benefits, but you get a lot more points to spend. or imprisoned, where they actually are staying away for 3 years. Again, you've got heaps more points to then go and spend. So again, these can be interesting strategies. Do you need them on the map at the start? Typically not, if they're inanimate. So you may just want to sort of think, okay, look, I'm just going to keep it on dormant and just make use of these points. That's often a good strategy if you're using the inanimates. If you do use awake, you're going to be wanting them to do something. You're going to lose a lot of points by doing that, but you will be wanting them to make use of having them around, which means typically either researching things or casting specific spells or something like that. But only 12 turns with them being dormant, it's not going to have a massive bearing on the game by doing that one. Again, if we just press B and have a look at the bless effect, so anything that says incarnate only, it says this effect will only apply when the pretender god has awakened and is still and while he's still alive. So while it's on the map, whether it be whether it's at home or flying around somewhere else, this will then apply. As soon as he either dies or is still waiting to come onto the map, these don't apply to the blessed units. This is only for blessed units. So we only have one unit really that we're going to be able to bless properly. And so just having a look again at these, and in fact, if I press N, it doesn't actually, does it filter? No, it doesn't filter. Okay, so we've got things, for example, like regeneration. Now, regeneration would be really useful for us. So blessed units will recover from damage at an extremely high rate, regeneration plus 10%. This is of their total hit points. Units that have regeneration naturally will get an increased rate of regeneration after being blessed. Inanimate units are not affected by this blessing, meaning our actual human soul will not get the regeneration, I don't think. I'll have a look at that in just a minute. But that's actually, so that one's something that could be worth getting in through here. Now, this is not that expensive for us. Bark skin, so blessed units will receive a bark skin that's very difficult to damage, so plus 7, maximum of 10 natural protection. Now, our units already have a natural protection of about 6, so that's a bit of a waste. Berserker, we don't really want them doing that, we lose control. Recuperation, so all sacred units will heal battle afflictions over time outside of battle. This one, they don't have to be blessed for it, for that to happen. Recuperation doesn't work on undead, lifeless, spirit form beings, and those who suffer from old age. That's not going to impact our sacred units. And so regeneration could be a useful one. So we have a look through here and try to figure out what we actually want. What's going to be useful. In this case, just looking at nature, regeneration I like the idea of. If we use Irminsul, and this, is it inanimate? It's actually not inanimate, technically. It just doesn't have map move. So it is essentially this one is fine for us to actually make use of. This one will get the regeneration. It's at 10% regeneration. That'd be 25 hit points per turn. Essentially while it's on the map. So even if it was attacked in its home province, it's going to survive. It's going to be extremely hard to kill. They're going to have a lot of points coming in against it. That's actually not a bad thing for us to aim for. Now, one other aspect of the giants, typically of giants, is... hang on, just cancel that. Let's do this one. If we go back to the nation and description and have a look at just a typical giant, like a Jotun herdman, we know that they're size 6, which means that their supply usage is 2.5 times that of a standard human. Like if we have a look, for example, at our goblins, at their size of only 2, they only use half a supply. So we're going to be rattling through the supplies. And so if we end up in a desert location or something where there's not a lot of food, we could starve, which means we could then start to get disease. And so this is another thing with the giants. It does the maps themselves tend to limit what they can then go and do. So how do we get around that? Once you start playing the game, there's one item that you'll be wanting to try to get if you are playing one of these factions where they do rely on armies of giants, because again, you're going to be chomping through the supplies. And if we just click on OK, and so to do that one again, just press question mark. We'll have a look at the items. So let's just go into View Forgeable Magic Items. So we'll just go to I. And in through here, what we're actually wanting to do is I want to just put this to nature again, so we can just see what the nature ones actually are. So N just limits it to nature again. Just shift question mark. You can see all of these different things in through here. So we've got nature. Now we've got things, for example, like the Thistle Mace, which will boost nature, but we can't hold that with Irminsul. It's got branches but no arms. But if we go across into the miscellaneous items with nature selected, fairly early on in the lesser magic items, we end up with this thing through here, an enormous cauldron of broth. And these are extremely good if you've got giants, because what they then go and do is it gives a supply bonus of 150. It is heavy, so it's sort of heavy items cannot be transported by certain magic rituals, so we can't sort of teleport it around to do things like that so much. But it really does feed an enormous amount of units. And so if we think of 2.5 supply required by a single giant, that's a fair few giants that we end up actually having under our control, that we can sort of, it's over 50 giants, which is a fair size army. And we can stack these up. It's not just, this is just per supply bonus. We can have multiple of these. And so typically what I like to do is actually have a hidden scout go along with the army, holding these giant cauldrons. But these require a nature mage level 3, which is sometimes hard to get. This is why, at the minimum, what you want, if you're going to be trying to get this sort of thing, is to get a nature mage level 2. Now, I've already covered this again in the magic items, because if we go with a nature mage level 2, I can then come back into this one here and go and choose the thistle mace. So at level 2, I can then bolster it up to level 3. At level 3, I can then come through and grab this one. And so these are both, like this one's a lesser magic item, and this one over through here is a greater magic item. So we still have to get to greater magic item to get the boost, but if we had Ermenthal, we'd just be able to pump those things out. So that's something we could just go and do. And that's a viable strategy. Without overthinking it, that's something we could actually go and do. That's going to then set us up with regeneration for those blessable units, and so we could make good use of that, because if we just exit out of that one, have a look at our unit descriptions, these guys come in with 41 hit points, which means that if they have regeneration, every single battle turn they're going to be going up by a minimum of 4 hit points per battle turn. So they're going to be fixing themselves up very, very quickly with that regeneration. So without overthinking it, let's just do that and have that as our strategy to get the extra supply. We'll get the regeneration. Now, if we go and just click on OK, so with this one through here, if we have a look at the bless effects, what do we need to get regeneration? We need to cost 7 bless points and requires a pretender with at least nature 7. So that's what we require, a nature 7. We've already got 3, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That one's now in there. This one has to be, again, if we have a look at the bless effects, we can now get regeneration. And so this one here is not a problem. Just go and click on it. We've still got, -1 bless points. We are going to need to do one more. So let's just go this way, just so we get to 0. So we've now got 8. I don't think we can actually add any more. We don't have any more that we can actually add. So we go up to level 8 with this, which is fine. There's other things as well. If we press S and look at the spells and look at the, for example, is it enchantment? And if we just press N, there's some good ones later on that we end up getting, that we have the ability to sort of then go and get. There's one that actually gives us heaps and heaps of nature gems, for example, which is, it's not enchantment, it's evocation maybe? Nope. Thaumaturgy? It's really the last one that I find. I'm sure of it. Alteration. There it is, Mother Oak. And so Mother Oak costs 50 gems to cast. This is actually a ritual spell, so it actually sort of takes up one of the ritual slots in the world. It only takes 5 nature to get this one, and so Mother Oak, the oldest and mightiest of all the oaks in the realm, is enchanted to become the greatest oak there ever was. The Mother Oak produces magical acorns that can be harvested and made into nature gems. So it grants 10 nature gems each month. The oak increases growth by +2 in the province where it was cast. And so this one, again, is sort of, it boosts everything up once we actually get this one. And so this would be something we'd aim for. Not that we want to get it immediately, but this is something that is going to give us heaps and heaps of nature gems. It costs 50 to cast it, but then we get a lot of them. So 10 nature gems each month. So 5 turns later, it's already paid for itself. And then we're just getting heaps and heaps of these. So we can do all sorts of things with those nature gems. And with that in mind, the other thing we can then go back and think about again is if we go back into the items again and press N and then just see what we can actually grab with that. If we go back to shields, we have this vine shield, which I think I spoke about when we were talking about the magical items, which does sort of lock the units in. It's going to allow us to do a lot of different things with the units we have. Plus we then have our other magic users that can go and make death weapons, for example, in through here with like different types of swords and things. So we've got a lot we can actually then go and choose from. I'll just press tab just to get rid of that one through there. But we've got a lot of options if we sort of choose this particular unit. This is just one example. We could do anything, but this is just one way of actually playing the game with that in mind. Now, again, I know that supplies will become a problem for us at some point when our armies become very, very large. And so breaking into nature is a great, easy way for us to at least get past that part of the game. But we don't have to do that. But anyway, let's just do it for this instance. So I'm happy with this regeneration. I think that's going to be cool. We're not overly worried about the blessing effects that we actually have, but that will still be useful for us for those sacred giants. We have 4 coming in immediately. We might want to bolster that one up a little bit. We don't need to go anywhere else with any of this, so we'll just keep that one where that is. So we've still got 340 points to then go and spend down in here for our scales. And so we want to, again, just do the easy stuff. If we want to, we can make this go even colder. It's going to cost me less supplies, and we know that supplies are a problem, so let's just leave that one off for now. Let's just start through here with order. Now, again, order is good because it does give us income, reduces unrest, gives us better recruitment, we get more resources, and we have less events. So let's just bring that up to 2. That's a maximum. Production, we want to get that as high as we can as well. We've still got heaps of points up through here. Growth, we'll bring that one up to maximum. That's 3 because this one does come in with +1. Where was it? +1 growth somewhere in here. I forget where it showed that actually. If I just go and select physical form, yeah, it comes in with +1 growth in through that side. So that allows us to get the boost in growth. So that's why we can get to growth 3, which again gives us heaps of supplies coming out of our dominion, so we can certainly feed our guys. We're down to 60 points. Magic, it's not critical for us, but we've got no more points to spend. I might as well just grab a few of these. So just get that on to say 6, and that's 40 points, unfortunately. If I make that one negative, that's 79. It's still 40 points. If I go and reduce that one to say 5, it's 53. And what about going one more this way? Yeah, that takes 50 points. If we go to luck, we've got 13 points. Can't really do much more than that. So 13 points is sort of going to be like it's a bit of a waste leaving that many points behind. But hey, let's just do it unless we go in prison. But I'm happy with dormant. This one does give me a fairly powerful scales area that we can then sort of work into. Yeah, I don't want to go less than 5 in this case. Anyway, that's sort of like, I guess, covers very, very quickly how we might choose one particular god. I might just leave this one here. I might actually come back. Just trying to think of when I actually start the game, if I should play with this one. Actually, I will play with this one because, I mean, we set it up. But this is not the only thing you could do. There's so many different ways of doing this. By the way, actually, I'll show you a few others because I've been saving a couple of other ones. So here's some other options for you, just as a bit of an example. But before I do this one, Shift ? I want to save Control S the current pretender design. So I'm just going to go I'll just press exit in through here. So Control S, the name of the god. I'll call this one Irminsul, or should I call it the Grand Oak or something like that? I'll just call it the Grand Oak. Grand Oak. There we go. So that will do. I'm just naming the god. And so that's now saved away. If I want to bring in other gods, now I've actually made another inanimate god that I was just playing around with, and also a beast god. So just to sort of just try rushing around to see what that was actually like. If I now go Control L, I now have 3 for this faction. It only shows you what's there for this current faction. So I've got the Grand Oak, which I've just created. I can always go and delete these. So the Grand Oak was the one that we just did with the regeneration. Okay, so only got nature magic for this particular unit, and that will then be important to then build some of the equipment that we require. That's what its job will then be. Control L. Let's bring in the Jotun monolith, which is the monolith in physical form. This one through here, where it's got a bit of earth, which we don't actually have any earth magic ourselves. A bit of astral and a bit of nature. So if we just go and cancel that one. This one, what I've done is I've decked it out with a little bit of air magic, so of an area that we don't actually have anything in. A little bit of earth magic, I don't have anything in that either. A little bit of astral back over this other side, and we've got a little bit of nature, so a little bit in through there. Very limited bless effects, so low light vision, magic resistance, and shock resistance. So the bless effects are not important in this instance, but we have bolstered all of these things up. We took a little bit of drain, because we've got 6 points left. We're still dormant. So we've got a little bit of drain coming back through. If I wanted to, I could actually go and make this one even colder and sort of take a bit of a hit on my supplies. So reduce the supplies by half and then go and spend more in through here and get the dominions up to say 7. But we're not using a bless strategy, so it's really not important. So I'll just bring them back. So that's another example of using like another inanimate object. Let's just go Control L and have a look at Frosty. Frosty is so Frosty comes in, this is interesting actually, when it comes in as this particular unit. This is actually Frost Father, but it actually changed, the shape changer is a dragon. And so when you select it, if I go in and select it from the physical form, it's not, the Frost Father is there, but it's also this one here, so the dragon of 240 points. If I go and select it, it's still the same, it's the same person basically. We've still got, like, it has brought the things. I'll just go Control L and bring Frosty back in. But when I built it, it was actually a dragon. But it has come in as a as essentially this particular unit with 10 water. This is mainly using water with quickness, and so the Frost Father is a bit of a hybrid. Like, so new paths cost 80 points because it was the dragon that was coming through, but this one actually has 2 forms. It has the Frost Father form as well as the dragon form. So the Frost Father is a mage with great power that has mastered his own mortality. Donning a godly mantle, he has taken the role of tender god. The Frost Father is a master of magic. So that's what he has. If we go back and choose and get back to where we were with 10 in through here with 11 design points left over, and just go and choose Frosty, and bolster this one up to 10 again. We're still down to a small number. I don't know if we had something else that was in there as well. But if we just bring that one up to say 4 again, I don't know if that was actually, that might have been what was there before. But this one here actually is then, this is a super combatant that we then actually have on the map. But this one again, shape changes back into the Frost Father. So essentially it's the same. We'll just double check that. If I bring this one back in again with the Frost Father there, it's still got 11 design points there. I think it must have been design level 4. So if we just go back in and go Control L and just bring Frosty back in, yeah, it was 4. That's why it's 11 points. No matter which way we go, it's still 11 points. It's the same unit basically with what we're sort of seeing through there. But if I had have chosen the Frost Father right from the start, it's then only 10 points coming in. But then I've still got to sort of marry everything else back up with it. So yeah, it's interesting. This one doesn't have the shape changer. Sorry, this one doesn't shape change across into the dragon. So yeah, the dragon can either be the Frost Father or the dragon. So that's essentially where we end up with that one through there. But the Frost Dragon is a fun one to play with. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. But I think we'll play with the Grand Oak because we did actually set that one up. And when we come back, we can sort of start the game and get into it. Thanks for watching.